We apologize for that break, and the news still continues. It was a terror attack that shocked Kenya and much of the world. At least 67 people were killed when gunmen opened fire in Nairobi's Westgate shopping mall last month. The siege lasted 4 days. Much of what we know about the horror inside that mall comes from survivors. Now, CNN has obtained access to some surveillance video of the attack, and a warning: this video is graphic and frightening, and it is certainly not suitable for children. CNN's Nima Alberge reports from Nairobi.
Shoppers at Westgate Mall. This is the scene moments before the Al-Shabaab attack. Suddenly, men, women and children begin to run for their lives. This man on the floor thought he'd found safety. Wounded, he gathers the strength to try and crawl for help. Another gunman returns, without mercy. The security cameras spotted 2 other attackers making their way to the top parking lot, walking towards the children's cooking competition held there. Just beyond the camera's view, they opened fire. This edited silent video obtained by CNN shows what happened during the attack in Nairobi on September 21st. As the attackers go through the mall, you see people desperate, trying to run and crawl to safety as bullets streak by. A body on the floor gets barely a glance, and another bullet. This is only a fraction of the surveillance video recorded during this day, most of it too horrifying to broadcast. In the supermarket, the hostage roundup has begun. A mother and her 2 children push an injured child in a shopping cart. A teenage girl follows, her hands in the air. She's bloody. A gunman points the way. Kenyan authorities say they closely watched the security cameras as the attack was happening. The hostage takers are spotted on the phone. Authorities believe they are receiving instructions from outside the mall. Here, one of them even appears to look for surveillance cameras. Only 4 attackers are seen in the video. There are long periods of time where they appear almost relaxed. At one point, the attackers take turns for prayers. Elsewhere in a mall restaurant, a Western man, gun in hand, and what appears to be a plainclothed Kenyan police officer take position to try to protect the staff and customers cowering behind a counter. And this was just the first day of what would become a 4-day nightmare for Kenya.
The threat of what many warned would be a global financial calamity has been averted, at least for now. Washington passed a last-minute deal to end the partial shutdown of the U.S. government and avoid a damaging debt default. But it could be square one in just a few months. The legislation only funds U.S. government to January the 15th and extends the debt ceiling until February the 7th, still for hundreds of thousands of federal workers. The deal means it is time to head back to work after days of forced vacation. This CNN report looks at how the deal was struck.
The motion is adopted.
Just as the nation was on the brink, the House of Representatives blinked. and passed the bipartisan Senate compromise to raise the nation's debt ceiling. And after a 16-day shutdown, the federal government will come back to life, from thousands of employees returning to work in Washington to critical medical research programs, to national parks, even the Panda Cam and the National Zoo.
We'll begin reopening our government immediately.
When the end was in sight, but before the House had even voted, the president came out to say he's ready to work with both parties in the future.
I'm willing to work with anybody. I am eager to work with anybody, Democrat or Republican, House or Senate members, on any idea that will grow our economy, create new jobs, strengthen the middle class, and get our fiscal house in order.
House Speaker John Boehner gave the green light for the deal when he dropped GOP demands for big changes to Obamacare in exchange for an end to the standoff.
We've been locked in a fight over here trying to bring government down to size, trying to do our best to stop Obamacare, and we fought the good fight. We just didn't win.
Even some Tea Party-backed Republicans agreed the strategy failed.
The folks who said we were going to lose turned out to be correct. I can't argue with that.
But in a sign of potentially more battles to come, one of the architects of the Obamacare or bust plan, Texas Senator Ted Cruz, vowed to keep fighting.
The way we are going to stop the suffering, the harms that are being visited on millions of Americans is the path we have seen these past couple of months, is the American people rising up.
Cruz may get his wish. The deal only reopens the government until mid-January and pushes back another potential default to February. But the president told CNN not to worry.
Mr. Buck, isn't this going to happen all over again in a few months?
No.
Jim Acosta, CNN, Washington.
We'll now take our first break. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and we'll now go back to our local stories. Officials of the National Environment Agency and partners have gathered for a day-long capacity-building training on resource mobilization for the adoption of the ecosystem approach for integrated implementation and environmental agreements. Aisa Tumani has details of that story in this report.
Environmentalists recently benefited from a day tutorial meant to help improve their knowledge of environmental management skills as well as resource mobilization strategy for the Gambia. The 4-year project for strategy and action plan to